3D Pink Panther Acrylic Nail Art Tutorial by Hotpinkzebrapolish. So I'm going to be creating the background for my Pink Panther using a glittery pink acrylic, and this is a semi-sheer acrylic, so it's kind of a cloudy look to it. And since I am doing this over a natural nail tip, you can't see through it. If you're doing this on your actual nail, if you didn't want to see your nail itself, you'd want to go over with a cover pink and then with the pink glitter. So I'm going to overlay that with a layer of clear. You always want to put clear on top of glitter, because if you don't, when you go to file it, you're going to file the glitter and you're going to file the color off of it, and it's going to end up being silver. So now I'm going to file the nail to smooth out any ridges, and I'm using a 180 grit file. After this, I'm going to use a buffer and just buff out any scratches that file may have left behind. So now I'm going to start working on my Pink Panther. So using a pale pink acrylic, I'm going to create this bar shape where I want the top of his head to be. And then with a thin bead, I'm going to make his head, and then I'm going to add his shoulders, or I mean his neck. And then I'm going to add his shoulders. And I'm going to leave his body fairly basic. I'm not going to over detail it because I really want the focus to be on his face. So I'm going to leave this part very simple. So now I'm going to start and I'm going to work on his snout. So that comes down at an angle from the side, and it's going to be wider at the bottom, and then it's going to thin out as it reaches the rest of his head. Oh man, I'm sorry, I keep losing my voice. So now, while that is still wet, I'm going to add 3 pieces of black thread going right through that snout area, and I'm going to press those in with my tweezers. So now I'm going to switch to a detail brush, and I'm going to add his ears. So those are on either corner of that original bar shape that we created. And then I'm going to be thickening up some of the areas of his snout, and as I'm doing this, I'm also covering up the connection with those wires, so they just sort of look like they're sticking right out of his face, like they would be because they're his whiskers. And so I'm just thickening up the area where they are, and then adding a triangle of thicker acrylic above them for how his snout is. So now with white, I'm just going to wash over those 3 different sections, so his cheeks and his chin, and then I'm also going to fill in his ears. And then I'm going to do the same thing on his tummy, because his tummy is a little bit lighter. So now, using a small scissors, I'm just going to be trimming his whiskers to length. And then with really bright pink acrylic, I'm going to be sculpting the triangle for his nose. So now with 2 beads of yellow acrylic, I'm going to be sculpting 2 circles for his eyes. And so his eyes are fairly circular and rather large. So don't be afraid to make them big, because that is how he is. So then with more of that pale pink acrylic we used to make his body and his head in the beginning, I'm going to be sculpting his eyelids. And as you might be able to see, I did not let his yellow eyes set long enough, and so some of that yellow pigment is mixing with my pink pigment, and it's turning his eyelids sort of a peach color. That's not really the goal. So then with a medium shade of pink paint, I'm going to be defining some of my edges. So I'm going to do around his mouth and his nose, and then I'm going to define the line for his eyelid, and then in his ears, and a little bit around his head too. And then also I'm going to add a line between the white of his tummy, or the lighter pink of his tummy, and then the rest of him. And also, you're going to need to add his smile. So I'm going to hold his whiskers off to the side because they are kind of in the way. So now with black, I'm going to be adding his pupils and then giving him eyeliner. Kind of a weird statement, giving a cat eyeliner. Anyways, so just make a thin line going right along his eyelids. And now I'm going to be using black gel paint, and I'm going to be painting his eyebrows. The reason I'm using gel paint is because it's a little thicker and stickier, and so it's going to do some self-leveling. And it's going to make them nice and smooth, instead of paint would really define all the edges of the acrylic underneath it. So now with a gel sealer, I'm going to go over the background and over his eyes, and then I'm going to be curing that in my lamp. And then with matte top coat, I'm going to be going over my Pink Panther, focusing on any areas where I used acrylic paint. And since that is just regular matte top coat, I don't have to worry about curing it. So now for my diamond nail, I'm going to start with an overlay of white acrylic. And now I'm going to be filing that nail so it's nice and smooth using a 180 grit file. So that is that quick little glimpse you got of the piece of paper there that had the sketch of the shapes I'm going to need to make to sculpt my diamond. I will post a picture of that on Facebook. So if you watch this video and you want to see how that exact shape is, then just go check out my Facebook page and you should be able to see the picture. I'll put a link in the description box. So I'm going to be placing a nail form backing on top of my post-it note that's got my sketch on it, and I can see through it. I know that you can't in the video, but in real life you can. And so I know the shapes that I need to make with my clear acrylic. So I am making those now, and as you're doing this, they don't have to be perfect because we're going to be fixing them up later on, but it's a pretty good way to know an approximation of what your shapes need to look like. So that's what we're doing now. So I'm just sculpting all of those with clear acrylic. And when you put these together, they do create your diamond. So that first shape that we made, or the last shape that I made, I suppose, is the first shape we're going to apply. So I'm going to take some clear acrylic and place that about 2/3 of the way up the nail, and then place that piece down, and I want to be completely perpendicular to the nail. And in the center. Mine's not quite in the center, so then my whole diamond was a little off. Oh well, live and learn. And then start adding the next layer. So the next, a little bit gone there for a second. I know it's really hard to tell what shapes I'm using here, but think of it in layers as I was sculpting. So that last layer sculpt is going to be layer 1. Next layer, those 3 pieces are going to be layer 2, and then those last 3 diamonds are the bottom of the diamond, and they're the point. So I did those next 3, and now I'm going to be adding 2 sides of the bottom, which are those long triangles. And so I'm just doing 2 sides. I'm going to be leaving that last one out for now, and I'll be filling that in later. So right now we have sort of a shell, and I'm going to be filling that shell in with some glitter flakes, some bigger glitter flakes, and then with some tiny little pink glitter that I have in this tube. So I'm going to be filling it in with that. And so that's going to have a really cool effect that, once again, you really can't see in the video, which is so unfortunate, but it really catches the light and everything is super iridescent. So then you need to fill in that hole with the final side of your diamond. And then take clear acrylic and just make sure that there's no gaps or weird spaces or anything on your diamond, and just fill it in until your diamond shape is about perfect. And then to make sure that it's really perfect, I'm going to be filing the sides. And you have to be very careful when you're filing. I am using a 240 grit file, I think. I say that now, I'm not sure. Really, really soft file so that you don't file through any of your clear walls of your diamond. So now I'm going to be gluing on some gems and studs, and I am using some white gel for this. And the reason I'm using the white gel is because that diamond that I'm placing right now is hollow, and if you don't use something that's going to fill in the back of it, it's going to be prone to pop off. So at the bottom I'm placing a gold diamond and then 2 white gems. At the top I'm placing 3 pink gems, one that's a little darker than the other 2. So now I'm going to be just highlighting a couple sides of that 3-dimensional diamond just to really show off the dimensions of it, and it really helps prove the 3-dimensional quality of it. And so now I'm going to be applying a matte top coat to the white background that we made in the beginning. And then I'm going to be applying a glossy gel sealer over the top of any of those rhinestones and studs and over the top of my 3D diamond. Cure that nail as well, and then you are all set. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you like this design. Please share any recreations with me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I would really love to see them, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!